think we should be good. I'm not going to use a timer or anything like that for this particular run, because, I mean, it's not a run, right? I'll talk more about the plans, but, you know, it's a launch test. I'm not really simulating how fast can I get through the Sunwell intro. We're just trying to see, you know, the general stuff. Like, can I get through the congested areas without, you know, falling behind people? How do the tags work in war mode? Yada, yada, yada. Also looks like, yeah, I can already see. I'm going to keep my sound off, I believe. Is it by... I have sound effects on. Okay, it looks like they manually disabled that. You can see there's this flashing thing. In previous betas, this was causing a sound effect every time it happened. So I'm guessing to counteract that, they made it so the bug, the visual thing still happens, but it doesn't, like, bombard your eardrums anymore, which, I mean, something. Alright. Infinite 10 said, hi, Harldan, good luck, thank you. Yeah, again, not using a timer, right? When this pops up, you know, am I going to try and get through it quickly? Yes. But, you know, these launch tests are notoriously janky, right? The main thing that we're trying to do is just simulate how does it all work, you know, what kind of is fucky with a lot of people. We already know that it's probably going to be a mess. You know, right now there's a bunch of people in my Discord debating with each other about, like, whether or not war mode is worth it. And, you know, one of those things where the answer is always, like, yes, but, you know, do you care enough? It is worth it. But, it's worth it, asterisk, like, if you are willing to take a risk. Obviously, there's a chance that you just get owned, and that's a big feels bad. There's not a whole lot you can do. But high risk, high reward, right? If you're trying to speed level, yeah, it's worth it. I also want to switch Chaotic Nethergate. Another thing is, am I going to use a second Radinax? So I don't... Yeah, the problem is I don't have... Like, I could mail over a Radinax, but that's a little bit tricky. What I'll try to do, I believe... Let me check my Warband bank. I can't remember if I have one sitting in there, because I copied account data, but it might not have copied correctly. I do have one. Okay, we'll do that. We'll try that instead of mailbox. And then for my, in place of my mailbox Brutosaur, at least for this test, I will do that. I'll just try to remember to use it. Is this leveling experience are the real bottlenecks after the Sunwell event? Guessing after that it's relatively fine? No, it's not. Okay. Real quick, obviously we're gonna be starting in like a few minutes, or I assume. Blizzard might rip it early, so I need to be ready. But I'll give a real quick overview just in case for people who don't know. So just checking, you can, like, I think you guys can hear me all right, but I've kind of been just yapping to myself. But like I said, excited to see how the add-ons work. Yeah, I'll give... So I mentioned that I'll give a very... or people are getting realm first achievements. That's silly. So I will give a sneak preview of my add-on, which is still... Oh, 2 minutes. Okay. They said 2 minutes. Yeah, so the way that the leveling works is it's Sunwell intro, then a few quests in Silvermoon, then Eversong, forced, mind you. Eversong is forced. And then you get to choose between 3 different zones. And then, obviously, the zone that you choose first, you get a head start. So getting an early head start, right? It's not just an advantage in the Sunwell intro. It's an advantage in the Sunwell intro, and it's an advantage in Eversong, and then it's an advantage in whatever zone you choose out of the 3, which will probably be Erator if you were trying a speed level. We're like 99% sure. So keep that in mind. Also, do this. Do I have quick quest enabled? I do. I don't have all my fancy gossip stuff set up. I've been basically living in VS Code for like the last, I don't know, how many hours are in 3 days? My brain's fried. Um, it's been a lot. So I haven't really had time to do any practice tests and stuff. I've obviously tested the Sunwell intro. I got in like I fucked up like a gun shoes. I lost 20 seconds, but I got like 11 minutes 27 seconds in Sunwell intro, and it would have been closer to 11 if I hadn't made the stupid mistake, but such is life. 72 hours, thank you. Oh, they enabled XP. Oh, I'm guessing that's Gingy then. What? Why are they teleporting? What the heck? Okay. So remember when I said that, like, you know, I'm not doing a timer, I'm not really... And this is good tech, though, or rather, good info. Because now we know that there's a chance that on launch, Leatrix will just not appear for some people. Which is, okay, so you have to fly out and then fly in. Alright, there we go. Good to know. Good to know. Someone have big streamer client. The fuck? What does that mean? You found the blue post from Blizz Community Manager about what releases when? I mean, okay. If you have a blue post to cite, I mean, then, like, yeah, definitely let me know. But I'm just saying, Wowhead is not a source. I have had this conversation with so many people, right? I don't blame you, right? For citing Wowhead, but the amount of times, it's really crazy. There's been so many times when people will, like, confidently cite Wowhead or some shit, and I'm just like, this is just wrong. Like, they will just take speculation and just run with it. If there is a blue post as a direct source, then sure, yeah, that's a different story. That is often not the case. Alright, I got those rallying quests. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna try to LOS these mobs down here. It's gonna be a little bit awkward. I'll try to kick you. Surprisingly, not that many people on my phase, even though I got a late start. Okay, talk to you. Now I'm gonna gun shoes, because I should be fine to do this, and then automatically interact. Yep. Gonna head over here, we're gonna talk to Lothraxian. Also, should go without saying, right, but, you know, bear with me. As I do this intro, I'm not going to be reading chat. I will get to you guys in, you know, after this. The intro literally takes, like, you know, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. So, just bear with me a little bit. Yeah. Going left, I think, is correct. I'm still, by the way, glancing at chat, right, and answering when I can. But yes, I do believe that going left is the strat. I'm gonna do this, this. Oh my god. I love Guardian Druid. Holy moly. We do this, this should be completion. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you can be the judge, right? But for a solo route, I'm pretty sure that's about as clean as it gets. That is, like, the cleanest possible path. The only real change is that Demon Hunters can, instead of having to do, like, the long gun shoes, they can just talk to Alonzo's Foul and then double backflip over to the center, which is really, really, really clean. Let's go into travel form here. Drop down. Talk to you. Talk to you. I'm gonna line up Arator so he heals our citizen. I think we get it. Okay. Yeah, Arator's a little bit inconsistent there. Sometimes he heals the citizen, sometimes he doesn't. But if I do this, yeah, it works in combat. So it's like, it's one of those things where Arator can either help you get like the speed strat, worst case scenario, you're like fine, you know, you just do that, works. Do this, nice. And then I would do this just since I'm in combat. Technically I could Shadow Meld, right? But I want to do this. It should phase me, I think. We're gonna do Perfidious Projector, hop on the Dragonhawk. Yeah, so I'll talk more about my route in after we're done. Because the other thing is, I was about to say this right as like they put the thing up, but I'm going to... I'll do a little bit of Eversong. How about that? Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of Eversong up to like Fairbreeze Village, just to give you guys like a general idea, and then you can leave the Dragonhawk. Scene, do this, talk to Arator, then we hop on the Rednecks. Yeah, I'll talk about my strategy. I don't have my cancel aura macro set up, but it should be fine. This, jump over here to Typhoon this mob. Should be able to do this before I get hit with a bolt. Maybe. Nice. Going to Perfidious Projector. I'm gonna save my Feral Frenzy because I have, like, Incarn LCDs for this, so I'll Feral Frenzy on the next guy. And that should kind of, like, spread out my damage a little bit. Going to use an oddly shaped horn. And normally I'd have a cancel or a macro. I just forgot to set that up before I logged out, so every time I do a new run, I have to remember to do that, but, you know. Alright, we're going to Cat Form, Ravage, this. Should shred this mob. Second. An oddly shaped horn again. This. I think this doesn't break in combat. Yeah. It has a yellow cast bar, but for some reason it actually isn't interrupted by taking damage, which is nice. The Perfidious Projector. Trying to think, do I want Projector? Both of them will be up in 30 seconds. It doesn't particularly matter. We'll keep it on. We use our last oddly shaped horn. I will cancel that. They changed the crest upgrade? I heard they made a slight change to it. Is that like the full change, or they made it so you get like an alt reduction? Because the alt reduction is nice, but it's like, you know, it doesn't fundamentally fix the problem. The phasing is good, or nobody's playing the stress test? No, a few people were. So it looked like I got on a fairly dead layer. Oh, they just reverted the crest thing. Okay, that's a good change then. Very, very happy about that. Yeah, I seemed like I was on a pretty dead layer. Like, Gingy and only a few other people were the only people I saw waiting. But when I logged on, like, 20 minutes ago, before restarting my computer, there were a bunch of people. So I think I was just on a fairly dead server. Or layer, or whatever. And also, like, even though I was technically a few seconds behind, I still got in, I think, relatively early. Hard to say for sure. Okay, let's swap to that trinket now. Do this, then this. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they did that crest change, because, let's be honest, if they pushed that through, it was just going to completely fuck the expansion. I was very much considering making a video about that, because I know it has been covered to death, but that's the kind of thing where it's like, if literally every single person in the community doesn't just say, like, no, Blizzard, go fuck yourselves, fuck this, then it's exactly the type of thing they would push through. But, you know, and I'll give them some credit, right? If they did fix it, obviously, I, you know, can't really see the notes until we're done with this, but if they did fix it, then good on them. And I'm glad that they actually made a solid change, but the fact that that was like, you know, how do I put this? So I forget exactly what the topic was, but there was like some person in like one of my streams where I was like complaining about something being bad. Oh yeah, I think it was actually the gold from crest upgrades or whatever. And I'm like, is it a bad change in the sense that, like, is it going to kill the game if this happens? Not necessarily, but if it's an objectively bad change and you hand wave it and you're like, okay, we're just gonna let this slide because it's not that big of a deal, then it's like the whole boiling frog thing. Blizzard's gonna be like, oh, players were okay with this? Alright, we're just going to keep seeing what we can get away with until the game becomes just an unrecognizable pile of dog shit. So, like, good on Blizzard for changing this, sure, but also, you know, it just sucks that we needed to even have this conversation, right? That's just the kind of change that it's like, why would you do this if not to just give a giant middle finger to your player base? And hoping that maybe they just won't notice, right? And maybe we can sneak in this, like, massive increase in playtime metrics. And it's just like, why? Like, why are we even still playing? When I was gonna say, why are we playing this game? Don't take me out of context, right? Like, why is Blizzard playing this game with us? Of, like, how much can we get away with? Just rethink your approach. Design a game that's meant to be fun and meant to be enjoyable, and stop doing this, like, constant push and pull of, like, how many playtime metric garbage things can we get away with shoving into the game? Because it's exhausting. But, again, credit where it's due. If they changed it, I'll look at the patch notes afterwards. But if they did change it, then I'm happy. Let's swap to projector. Can't tell if this is enough. It's always like, whenever I do this quest, it's deceptive, right? I always think I'm, you know, I don't have enough yet. And then I'm actually like, oh no, I'm good. Let's tag Imperatus and get him over. Yeah, like, exactly. Like, those mobs give so much. You don't feel like they should, but then they just give you a gigantic chunk of progress. Okay. Okay, I'm about to shred Imperatus. Nice. And then we just wait for the cutscene to trigger. Boop. I mean, if Wowhead is reporting on a blue post, that's a separate story. The Wowhead guides you cannot take for granted. Also, by the way, this is a good sign. The fact that we're on the loading screen, notice how long this loading screen is taking. That means that I'm one of the first people loading out into the Isle of Quel'Danas. That's a good sign. Back to Lorthamar. This is the new Falling Flame spot, by the way. So remember what I said in my prep video? Even if that cool Falling Flame I showed isn't the one that gets used, there's still going to be a place for Falling Flame. This is what I meant. There's still situations where it does save time. Alright, so a few people got here before me. Makes sense, because I was, like, you know, a good bit behind on actually getting in. Okay, yeah, so we have the intro quest for exploring Silvermoon. So like I said, I'll do a tiny bit of Eversong, just, you know, if you haven't watched my full speedrun, which, after I'm done with this, I'll throw the links in chat, because I'm imagining some people here probably missed those, because they were, like, last week. But if you're unfamiliar and you want to see that stuff, I'll just make it easier to find. I made an 8-hour video about the Sunwell intro. So that thing that we just did, that super duper tiny intro, I talked for 8 hours about it. And if you're wondering how the fuck do you find 8 hours of things to say in relation to the Sunwell intro, well, you're just gonna have to watch that video and find out. It was very rambly, you know. It's just, you know, fun type of video. Wasn't meant to be super serious. Flightmaster. To this. Then I believe you have to, yeah, click on this thing. Village. Not Jade West said, hello, Harldan, I love your videos. Thank you. I'm glad you're still watching after all this time. It's always fun seeing a name that I remembered popping up in chat for years and years. Hey, Azero. So we'll do this, and then I'll stop. I'll read through all the chat messages that I missed. Right. So, I don't know. It doesn't look like many people have bothered doing the questline. Honestly, the main reason I wanted to go all the way up to this point is because some people in my Discord were saying a while ago that this set of quests, the Lightworm ones, were really bottlenecky, like, early on in the beta. But, I mean, well, nobody else is here, right? So, there's nothing I can really test, basically, with other people being here. So we'll stop here, we'll hang out. This is definitively Eversong Woods outside of the Sunwell intro. So, real quick, some people, yeah, let's see, /who 81 to 90, who is, yeah, so some people, Fellwood is an interesting one. Somebody's exposing secret tech. I don't know what that is. So I have no idea what's in Fellwood. But apparently there's some shit going on in Fellwood. Unless they're doing like a pet battle turn-in route. Feralus. Okay. This might be people doing like, I prepped every single pet battle quest. And I'm doing that. That is entirely possible. So this person went from Feralus to Southern Marins. They're probably doing big pet battle turn-in. But this person is still in Fellwood, so I don't know what they're doing in Fellwood. Sus AF. Yeah. You watched it full, you can't say this man is 100% correct in yapping for 8 hours. Nice. But yeah, so again, right? Yeah, this person's doing pet battles. No idea what's going on there. I'm sure that people are going to find a lot of really silly ways to reach max level super quickly on launch. There's always broken strategies. This is nothing new. They were 81 within the first 45 minutes. Does not surprise me. Does not surprise me at all. I mean, I have a lot of pre-quests stacked up. If I just flew around turning in my pre-quests, I could probably hit level 81 in that time. Let's see. Somebody said, pretty sure Dream Surge XP buff got nerfed to 5% in my Discord. Interesting. Okay, I see the schedule here. Bountiful Delves. Yeah, so the problem with this, right? I think you're in chat, right? You're watching, Kramer? Yeah, so the problem with what you linked is Wowhead goes on to add a bunch of fluff, right? About, like, different types of delves. The thing you linked only says Bountiful Delves on the week of March 17th, which that much we know. That much is obvious. But when do non-Bountiful Delves at different tiers unlock? That blue post says nothing about it. But Wowhead will just, like, extrapolate based on past events and just add it in there and not mention that this is speculation, right? Which is, problematic. Let's see. This person's still in Fellwood. This person's in Valdrakken. They probably did crafting or something. I'm guessing. Also, so somebody in my Discord said Dream Surge might have been nerfed. I'm not going to go out there and check it right now, but I'm saying that here. So if anybody watching is able to go and check Dream Surge and confirm the XP values, that would be really helpful. Octana said, first stream I've caught in a while, and Octana subscribed. Thank you. Appreciate it. Looks like Burning Steps. So, the Burning Step stuff, that's only during the Erator questline. Now, if somebody wants to do the entirety of Eversong Woods, and then go to Erator, and then progress up until that point in the campaign to confirm if it's still working, but that takes, like, about an hour. I think you could technically, if you're really doing it quickly, get it done all in, like, 50 minutes. But that would be cutting it close, considering they said the test will only last 1 hour. But that only does scale during those particular quests. Okay, let me scroll up real quick. Gonna just catch up on all the messages that I missed, because I want to answer everything, right? So just to be clear, I'm going to do some more testing of the Sunwell intro in like 10 minutes. We're just going to cycle through it, and you will also get a sneak preview of the add-on that I'm making, which I hope will be at least in a, good enough to share with you guys state within, like, the next 2 or 3 days. And, I mean, you'll be able to see, based on the preview, the judge of, like, my progress, right? We'll see. But I'll do that in, like, 10 or so minutes. Right now, I want to make sure I read everything. Post only goes about the season stuff, not the post-launch preseason. Yeah, historically, they have been very, like, non-communicative about that stuff. Okay, yes. I see the post you're talking about. The Wowhead post. Crest upgrade cost change again. Yes. Good, good, good. Upgrade costs 5 more crests with crafted pieces requiring more crests. Okay, so from what I'm reading, based on the Wowhead post, it looks like now it is a flat increase. It seems like upgrades will cost slightly more than the War Within. Crafted items will cost slightly more. However, very important disclaimer, right? We still don't know how Turbo Boost is going to work. Now, there was some data mine stuff about, like, Void Forge or whatever. That might be, like, a mid-season Turbo Boost thing. TBD on how that's going to work. My hunch is that whatever mid-season crap they do isn't going to be like the turbo boost that we've had in the War Within. Because quite frankly, if they do that, it's going to be really bad. And the main evidence that I have for that, well, I don't have any evidence, this is just like me spitballing, but the main guesstimation I have for why that might be the case is we're getting mid-season raids now, which we haven't had before. So, if we get mid-season raids, and we're expected to regrind, like, all of the same stuff, that makes no sense. But if we get a mid-season raid that drops better gear on its own, and then we're expected to basically, like, the mid-season raid soft nerfs the previous raids, and, like, the previous raid gear remains relevant because now it is used for prog into the new season. Like, it all kind of feeds into each other, right? So I think it's much more logical for them to do, like, a very light catch-up mechanic, like they've done, with, I think, Cersei Circlet, the Delve Belt, like, they've done stuff like that before. So the data mine thing, I think it's probably going to be along those lines. Now, do I hate that type of catch-up mechanic in general? Do I wish they just stopped doing dumb stuff like that? Yes. But Cersei Circlet was way less egregious than the entire Turbo Boost event. I hated Turbo Boost. I think that it was just very poorly designed. So I think that them adding the mid-season raid, that's just like a massive W and means they don't need to do Turbo Boost. We get the best of both worlds. So I don't think we're getting that, which means that if the entire crest upgrade track is slightly more expensive and weapons cost slightly more, well, if we aren't going to have to recraft it later on, then effectively we're just getting like a, the turbo boost values, but slightly earlier, and we can get more crests per week now. And based on the Wowhead post I saw earlier today, it seems like also the alt catch-up mechanic is going to be stronger than it was in War Within. So I would say, on average, it probably means that gearing is faster now. Which, I guess we'll see exactly how the values end up, but this is a very good change. Yeah, like that. What class do I plan on maining at the start of Midnight? So, I main tank, and I am in a Hall of Fame guild, which means I main the role, not the spec. Now, I'm going to get all 6 tanks leveled up. I am going to prioritize Guardian Druid, Brewmaster Monk, and Blood DK. Primarily Guardian and Brewmaster, because right now it seems like they are going to be the 2 best tanks. But there's, like, obviously a chance, right, that the comp ends up being Brew and Bear. In which case, I'd probably be on Brew, my co-tanks on Bear, unfortunately, as depressing as that is. And there is also a chance, a very real chance, what I've seen, that Double Blood is actually going to be mandatory, at least on some fights. And because of that, I need to make sure that my Blood DK is set up. So we're doing 3 split runs. Those are the 3 tanks that I'm planning to bring for the split runs. But I'm going to be getting all 6 of them set up just in case, at least on a basic level. And I'm also going to get, like, multiple copies of the tanks that I really plan on playing. So I'll probably get at least 2 monks, at least 2 bears, at least 2 death knights. Maybe more. We'll see. This area is starting to look a little bomb-lucky. Yeah, right? And it goes to show, like, I actually got out of here pretty quickly. Because now, this place is packed. So, the crowd has caught up. You can see it's also fairly alliance-dominated. So that's interesting to know. Who helped with the add-on? Entirely me. It is 100% a just me thing. I've always said, if I'm going to make an add-on, I'm going to do it my damn self, right? I do not like to do, whenever I did, like, group projects in high school and college, I would always just say, like, let me be a group of 1, you know, just let me do my own thing. I'll do all the work of everybody just on my own. I'd rather succeed or fail entirely by myself than have to worry about, like, other people pulling their weight. And that's why I've always said, whenever people have asked me, like, oh, do you want to work with our add-on to get this thing? Fuck you. If I do it myself. Well, putting my money where my mouth is now. So the start issue was, like, some got BFA or War Within StarQuest instead of the Midnight one. Wait, they fucked that up? That's interesting. I mean, for me, when I flew out and back in, it worked, but that could also be coincidence. It could have just fired, like, the moment I happened to, like, fly in. We'll see. And then, yeah, let me catch up. Yeah, so, here, let me post, the Night Elf Heritage questline goes into Felwood. It does, yeah, but, like, why would they be doing the Night Elf Heritage questline? That's the real question. Like, what advantage would there be to that? Now, as a prequest, yes, but, like, I have it set up as a prequest. But you don't need to be in Felwood for that. It's turned in Stormwind. So, like I said, some shenanigans are afoot. I'm wondering if I do 82. No, okay, so everybody who's doing that is still 81. Yeah, it is interesting. I'm guessing it must have just been, like, they did a pet battle turn-in and then, like, went AFK or something. Probably. But, who knows. Can you see this message, or is there still an AI filter? There's no AI filter. So, to be clear, when you got banned on my Twitch channel, that was, like, manual. Like, I manually banned you. And I'm doing it again on YouTube. Just so we're clear on that. It's not AI. Hi, D. Sully. Good to see you. Let me... They did nerf Dream Surge! Oh, shit! Okay. Well, that's good to know. You know what? Alright. Like, so obviously this is gonna fuck up a lot of people's calculations, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be disappointed in that. But let's be honest here. Kind of a gigantic W. Because, like, having to set all that up, ugh, massive pain. I do not want to have to worry about going into Dream Surge zones anymore. So, I'm kind of glad. It was way too strong, for sure. Okay, let's... Yeah, let me grab real quick. So, I'm gonna just post the Sunwell intro video, because, like, there's a bunch of questions about, you know, oh, what are you doing for, like, the routing of the Sunwell intro? And, like, so I posted that in, Twitch, and then in YouTube. That is an 8-hour video with a detailed PowerPoint presentation on the Sunwell intro. Now, there are multiple things discussed throughout that video, obviously. The Sunwell intro, like, detailed breakdown is in the last, like, 2 or so hours. There's timestamps, you can go to it. But if you want to understand, like, my reasoning behind why I did the route that I did in this stream, then I break it down, like, literally quest by quest in that PowerPoint presentation and explain exactly why I did what I did. Oh, hey, that's Lars, right? Hello, Lars. Already 81. Godspeed. But what's it called? Yeah, so go watch that if that's what you're curious about. And then if you want the full speedrun, I did an 80 to 90 run last week. I'll link that here. And so anybody with, like, questions on that stuff, it's explained either in my video there, or you can just watch the full speedrun. What is this? Huh. Weird. Quickly look through. And so, as for when my next stream is going to be for, like, a full speedrun, the next full speedrun is going to be when my add-on is at least, like, fully complete for the campaign. I don't know how long that's going to take. Hopefully, like, 2 or so days. But, I mean, very TBD. It's not going to be ready tomorrow. I know that for sure. Maybe by, like, Sunday evening, we'll see. Most likely more like Monday. And then the moment I have the full campaign route ready to go in my add-on, I'm going to do a stream with my add-on. So you'll get to watch that, and you'll get to see the add-on in action. But obviously, getting the add-on ready is my top priority. Oh, hey, Presidente. Recognize that name, too. So that's the top priority, and then that way, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone, right? We do another test speedrun, but then you also get to see how it works with the add-on and stuff like that. So that should be cool. Is my add-on my first forte into WoW Lewis stuff? So, in a sense, yes. Basically, when I decided that I was going to make this, which, like, I basically was about, like, August, September of last year, when I basically set my foot down and said, I am going to build this add-on. Like, that's when I had the decision point of, I'm going to make this eventually. And I've been playing around with Lua for, like, smaller projects ever since, and, like, trying to learn it. So I made, you could see in, like, some of my previous videos that I made, like, throughout the end of last year, there was a little, like, text box with, like, information about my character and my spec and stuff like that. And that was, like, a Hello World add-on. Of, like, okay, how do I, like, show my character's name, the information, basically, you know, basic stuff like that. I also had to make an add-on to, like, help optimize some stuff with my UI in the Legion Remix speedrun, because obviously every second counts, right? So I made a little add-on purely for that. So I learned some basic Lua stuff over the last few months, but this is definitely, I mean, it's a major step up, right? There's obviously a lot more that I had to learn over this past week getting that set up, and it's, like, night and day compared to, like, the mini projects that I did. But that being said, like, I know how to code. So I've taken a shitload of computer science classes in high school and college. The only reason I didn't get a computer science minor, I'll be real, and my dad still gives me shit about this to this day, is because I did all the computer science classes, and then I had some calculus classes, and I just said, nah, I don't really want to take calculus. It was like Calculus 2 or whatever. I took the first calculus and I hated it, so I just didn't. And, you know, I was kind of lazy, I'll admit, but, like, you know, I know how to code, basically. I haven't played around with Lua until recently, but with any programming language, it's like, once you understand, like, okay, this is how this thing works in Lua, it's not that bad. But still a lot to figure out. Does Harldan still play the game? Nah, I mean, he's busy these days. He keeps jokingly saying that, like, when the add-on's finished, I should do a stream of, like, my dad tests my leveling add-on or something like that. And I don't know. We'll see. But he keeps, like, saying, oh, that would be so cool. People would love that. So, I don't know. We'll see. The add-on is not out. No, the add-on is still in development. You'll get a sneak peek in, like, 5 or so minutes. Just vibe code? Yeah, well, to be clear, right? I have said this. I am using AI for parts of it. Like, anybody, frankly, who is not vibe coding at this point in time is just kind of dumb. And, like, basically my dad, who also is a computer programmer, and literally teaches at AWS, like, teaches courses to people and, like, big companies and stuff on how to use AWS services. He basically said exactly that to me. Of, like, if you try to make this add-on without using vibe coding to, like, automate parts of it, you're an idiot. And, like, yeah, he's not wrong. For a lot of, like, the basic lookup stuff, I mean, it just saves so much time. It's ridiculous. But there's a lot of stuff, obviously, that I still need to do by hand. Like, people don't really understand how vibe coding works. You know, it's not like, hey, ChatGPT, build me a leveling add-on. Like, it doesn't work like that, right? I still need to be the one who, like, decides the infrastructure of the add-on, and I'm like, okay, I want to build this feature, and then I look up, like, okay, how do I build this feature? And AI makes that process easier, but then I still need to fine-tune it, right? And as you'll see, the arrow that I had to build, I had to do by fucking hand, and it took forever. And I kind of wish that I didn't in hindsight, but, you know, it's like, whatever. Yeah, honestly, good learning experience for sure. 15 minutes war mode is Horde, nice. It's wait on 3 spawns because Leatrix just wouldn't spawn. Yeah, it took me a while too. Experienced software engineering, you're going to vibe code more and more at work. The difference is to use AI to get shit done, and you do the more important Yeah, exactly. Like, the thing that I've spent most of my time on is the architectural stuff. Exactly. Yes, I am making a leveling guide add-on. Yes. Like the Voldemort add-on. Yeah, let me read everything in YouTube chat. Get that sub 11 intro. Yeah, I didn't time myself, but I don't think that was sub 11. But that was still pretty good. That was a very clean Sunball intro for sure. How does the launch test work? Can you log out and go to Silvermoon? Sorry if I missed this until now, but you can go ahead and talk to Liadrin in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, or Dornogal. That's how you start it. Looking at DH moving fast, and it's like Legion Remix all over again. Yeah. Yeah, Demon Hunters, even outside of Legion Remix, can move pretty damn fast. Alright, I think I read everything. Is it going to be behind a paywall? No. So, if you did not hear, the add-on is completely free. Yeah, sorry if I forgot to say that, like, just now, but I've been saying that for a while. Add-on 100% free. No strings attached, no bullshit like, oh, technically the add-on's free, but to get the actual guide, you need to, you know, pay our fucking $50 subscription service, which insane shit, by the way, that people can get away with that and Blizzard does nothing. And I hate it, right? I fucking despise that system, and my add-on will be free. Now, I've said this before, I'm gonna set up a Patreon, because, like, you know, I need to make money off this somehow, but the Patreon is going to be like, if you like the add-on, and then you want to give me money as, like, a thank you, you can do that. Nothing will be locked behind the Patreon. Like, right now, what I'm probably going to do is, like, developer updates. I'll probably have, like, a tier for beta testing upcoming versions of the guide. So, like, basically, once I have the basic route set up and nothing is, like, super polished, you can beta test that or something. I'll figure it out, right? I don't know just yet. But the actual add-on, like, all the really important stuff, all that is 100% free. I did not prepare Mastery of the Tomeways. I'm not going for World First. I'm not doing any of that crazy shit. I'm just doing campaign leveling, getting to 90, efficient route, important shit. Yeah. Practically, the Voldemort add-ons are free. Yeah, but, like, it's not the same thing, right? Obviously, the fact that you need to pirate an add-on to access it, not the same thing at all, right? So, problem is using stuff that's made purely vibe-coded versus using it as a tool. Exactly, yes. Personally, use it if you want to take that first step in the software space, but where you haven't before, but writing all that out, as you write it, you have ideas on how to change things for the better. Yeah. But I mean, I'm still, like, in the code, right? Like, I'm still tinkering with it myself. For sure. We're gonna get a sneak peek of the add-on. You're gonna get a sneak peek of the add-on in, like, 5 minutes. I'm just trying to catch up in chat, right? In fact, I can... Let's do that now. Can I set up an in-game leaderboard? Ooh. Tell you what, you know, I said, like, for the Patreon and stuff, one thing that I thought I'll probably add at some point is I think we'll probably do, like, monthly polls on, like, what feature do you want to see next? And, like, if enough people want, you know, in-game leaderboards, then, you know, sure. But I think that's one of those, like, that is cool, but that's like a stretch goal. That's like a, if I've done everything else that's super important. But that, you know, would be neat if I could set that up. It would probably be ridiculously complicated, though, so I don't know about that. Let's copy character. And where's my monk? Monk. What was my best time? 80 to 90? I've only done one full, like, in one sitting speedrun. I've done, like, a bunch of segmented tests where I'm, like, you know, I test for, like, a few hours, do this one section, stop, take a break. I've only streamed one full test run. We'll be doing a few more, like, within the next few days. Or, well, rather before launch, right? But I've only done that one. And that was 6 hours. Now, you can get significantly faster than that. I just haven't sat down and actually done a run like that. You've seen someone add some custom code editing in Leatrix to make it auto-talk when there's one alternative. Is that something I'll be doing too? Probably not, like, something that specific. So one thing that I already plan on doing is I'm going to have, like, a tab on the add-on settings and stuff that's just, like, recommended add-ons. And it's like, hey, here are some cool add-ons that I like to use that have very specific, like, functionality, like the automate gossip thing. Quick Quest can do that too, I think, if you edit it. Pelham, the guy who makes Quick Quest, also has an add-on Extra Quest button. And Extra Quest button, I'm not going to build that into my add-on, but I will put somewhere in there that, like, hey, go get this add-on if this is something that you'd like to have. So any of, like, those really nice functionality things, I'm not going to build it into my add-on. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. It doesn't need to be a one-stop shop. If there's already an add-on out there that accomplishes a very specific goal and does it well, I'm just going to recommend that. My guide is going to be more focused on the guide itself. And then if there is, like, core functionality that most people would want from, like, just any sort of leveling add-on, like auto-accept and auto-turn-in. Mind you, I have not implemented that yet because I'm trying to get, like, the important shit working. And I already have, like, Leatrix Plus for that for testing purposes. But I will have that, and I've already looked it up. It's not that hard to implement. But stuff like that is, like, yeah, I will probably have that in just because people would probably expect that. But any sort of other bells and whistles, not really concerned about it. This is the add-on, by the way. I'm using my test module right now. So basically, my Hello World test module was the human starting zone. You know, good, nice, simple area to test. And while I was, like, fine-tuning the code for it, that is what I used. Now, for the Sunwell intro, I finished basically, like, the main code for the add-on to get it, like, in a testable state at, like, 1 p.m., which was basically 4 hours ago. And then I started working on the midnight, or the Sunwell intro section, and then they took the servers down, like, 30 minutes after. I got the first 2 quests set up. So I have everything listed out here, but the way I had to do it is I just went on to Wowhead, and I got, like, all of the quest information and plugged it in just based on what I saw in Wowhead for, like, coordinates and stuff. So some of these are probably going to be off, and we'll see. And I'm going to try and... I have my... Because I restarted my computer, so my VS Studio's closed. But yeah, you can edit Leatrix, you can edit Quick Quest and stuff like that. You have your own executable that grabs the leaderboard data from the interwebs. Interesting. What is Blizzard testing today? They're testing the launch test. Straight Lua, you'd either have to update it. Yeah, no, I'm sure within Lua itself, that would be really difficult. The add-on... So the add-on will be free, right? The add-on is not released yet. I'm still testing this. This is, like, Purely right now, it's not uploaded to CurseForge or anything. When it is ready, it will be free. Completely free, no strings attached, yes. Am I excited for Midnight? I'm very stressed out, but I guess, in a sense, I am excited. Yeah, so here's my little arrow. Right now, it's just like a fixed size. I'm going to add, like, the ability to resize, obviously, a lot of this stuff. There is, like, a basic, like, resize window here, but I haven't done that for the arrow yet. There's going to be an options panel. All of that stuff that's, like, easy enough to implement, just not worried about it. I wanted to get the hard shit out of the way first, and making sure that this looks good, right? So, over here, the arrow, by the way, made this shit by hand. I wish I didn't. Now, obviously, the code, to figure out how to code this, I did look at TomTom's code and see, like, okay, what the fuck are they doing, right? Because I never knew how arrows like this were made, and different add-ons, from what I can tell, use different ways to generate their arrow. And I always thought, like, with the old Azeroth Autopilot version, it was like they were actually rendering like a 3D model. But what's actually pretty cool about this is just a 2D image, but they use a sprite sheet, and it's basically, you know, like keyframe animated. And you just, in the code, basically switch between different cells on the sprite sheet to make it look like it's a 3D arrow. And then also there's like an automated, I think these days, from what I can tell, TomTom actually just has like the coloring baked into their arrow on their sprite sheet. But I use like change the alpha channel colors to make this go from like green to red, depending on where you're facing. And so the arrow itself is just like kind of an off-white shaded arrow. And I had to build this fucking thing in Photoshop and build my own sprite sheet, which there is a way to hijack TomTom's arrow. They literally build it into the code where you could basically just use TomTom as your thing. I'm pretty sure WoW Pro does that. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to build my own arrow. How hard can it be? Turns out very hard. But we've gotten that done. It's, you know, it's done. It's good. I built the fucking thing, right? I designed my own fucking sprite sheet, built my own arrow, and got that all set up. So, you know, that took like literally an entire day, but that's done. That's the hard part out of the way. And then I even made it so like you get closer. I'm going to change the animation on this to look like a little fancier, but right now, you know, it switches when you're within a certain range. I can basically tailor the range with if it's like 5 yards or 10 yards or stuff. I think it's 5 yards by default, right? So quest here, I have like notes, right? There's different sections, so you can cycle through here. Something right now where you'll notice here it says like no position, where this is like a debug thing, where if the arrow is pointing to a different zone, then it's just like, what the fuck do? I can't load it. But instead of obviously potentially risking like a crash or something like that, it just defaults to like the default Blizzard arrow, and then, you know, says no position. What I'm probably going to do is like add some code that's like, okay, if it's in a different map ID, it just either goes away entirely or says like the arrow will load when you switch to the correct zone or something like that. But you know, for now, this works, and when I get to the correct area, it will. One of the main things, and this is something that took a while, right? One of the main things that I spent a lot of time figuring out for the logic here is so many of these leveling add-ons are just like gigantic lists of like step 1, step 2, step like 580, and it's like, pick up this quest, go here, do this, do that, turn in this quest, and they're all like separate steps, and it's a cluttered mess. So what I wanted to do is separate it into like chunks, right? So what you'll notice is like the chunk where you pick up these 3 quests, there is just a section current, and it will have all 3 of these quests in the section because you do all 3 of them at the same time. And when you pick up this quest, this line will automatically update to the objective for that quest. When you turn in this quest, it'll get erased from this, and then once you've finished all of the objectives and turn in all of the quests in this section, then it switches to the next one. And everything is like grouped together, and it automatically updates so that you're not just like following a gigantic list of different items. You're basically following it like you would when you're actually questing. Go here, do this hub, pick up all these 3 things, and work on them in tandem at the same time. And the arrow follows like a separate logic, where like one thing that I'm sure that it'll bug out a little bit in the Sunwell intro, because it's a lot easier to get this working when it's like there's a bunch of singular objectives that you want to do in an order. But a good example would be this quest, right? The rescue civilians thing. Well, how do you like direct the arrow to rescue civilians? You can either direct somebody to the general area with all of the civilians and then say rescue civilians in this area, or you could direct somebody to like the civilians like one by one that you should rescue in like the optimal traveling salesman path that I discussed in my Sunwell intro video. And I would like to have it so on the actual add-on, it just says rescue civilians 0 out of 20. But the arrow will try to guide you smartly to whatever civilians you want to rescue. So it'll try to point you in that direction. And there's basically like code on the back end where this is just displaying all of it in one area, but the arrow is basically operating on like one waypoint after another, and it's trying to direct you basically in the traveling salesman line that I take in the speedruns, or at least whenever it makes sense. If I'm doing some crazy speedrun strat, I'm not going to have you follow that. This add-on is aimed at regular players. So within reason, right, I want to have it be as optimized as possible, but if I am doing something in my runs that I just do not think is practical for like the average person, I will just give a reasonable recommendation that doesn't account for that. But if it's as simple as like, yeah, there is just a most optimal way to hit these 3 waypoints, one after another, then I will probably have the arrow point to that in order. If that makes sense. Still some ways to go, right? Like, I have a lot of fine-tuning to do, but this is also the only thing that I will be doing for the next few days with every waking moment until it's ready to go. Hello, Werewolf. Good to see you. If it was you, you'd feed integration with the TomTom arrows and just use the in-game pin. Yeah, and like that's the thing. In hindsight, if I knew how long it would take to build it all myself, like maybe I would have done that just to save time. But like, I've already done it. We've already crossed that bridge. So, and like at the same time though, I feel like I learned a lot doing that. So, I think it was worth it. But, you know, it was worth it, but then I also still only have a limited amount of time, and there's like so much that I want to get done in the next week, and I only have so much time to do it. It's like, So, we'll see. Once you turn in a quest, we'll go to the next quest automatically. Well, I can answer that very easily. So we turn in this quest, and it goes to the next quest automatically. So there you go. You're trying to prep for leveling. You were wondering if it's worth doing the Sunwell intro on multiple characters. No, definitely you skip it. Do one character first all the way through, and then you're going to go back and skip the Sunwell intro. Yeah, and then you can see it automatically the moment I get credit. It updates to turn in Voice from the Light. We turn this in, goes to the next step. And then I even have a note, the Leatrix is very slow. But it'll direct you here. Now, I do also, right now, I have it using waypoints, but it can calculate the distance without the Blizzard waypoints. It basically just goes by the, like, manually inputted XY coordinates, but the add-on also just drops a Blizzard waypoint at the XY coordinates. Yeah, stress test started. Stress test was started 50 minutes ago. I'm just like doing a sneak preview of the arrow or the add-on in like the last 10 minutes or so. So we picked this up. Now, this is where I wasn't sure how this was going to go. So I did those 2 intro quests and I got it set up to work like that. And then everything from here on out, I basically coded through Wowhead information, and I have no idea how it's going to look in-game. So I can already tell, speak with Alonsis Fowl 0 out of 3. This is something that I thought would happen. So there are some quests like this one where if there's 3 distinct objectives, what I'm going to have to do is instead of just saying, like right now it's just like, it displays the quest objective and then my description text. And I'm curious how it's going to update. But what I need to do, I believe there is a way to call an objective step. So I'll have to basically look at the quest, see which objective step is Alonsis Fowl. I believe he's probably... in this case, 2 out of 3. So then I'd call like the second objective step, and then that should update. Speak with Alonsis Fowl 0 out of 1. Right now, it's just summing up all of the objectives, and since there's 3 in total, it says 0 out of 3. Right? Again, this is a super early version. This will all be fine-tuned, hopefully, by launch. We'll see. So another thing, yeah, I wasn't sure how this would display. So kill enemies to fill the bar. Now, I would like to have some way to display this in the add-on as 0 out of 100%. If I can't, not the end of the world, but I would imagine I can. But it seems like the back end of the quest is just tracking, has the bar been filled 0 out of 1? I would imagine there's probably some way in-game to get the information on how the progress bar is being filled. Why am I... Oh, I'm in Windwalker spec. Okay, I did not mean to be in Windwalker. I guess it doesn't really matter. Do I have my Windwalker? I do have an Abe Windwalker talent build set up. So, yeah, this is another thing, right? So, I wasn't sure how it would behave. There's, like, 2 different map IDs for the Sunwell, and it just, like, randomly switches you in between both of them. It's really annoying. That's the kind of thing where, like, when I did all my tests for the code, there's every map, like, Elwyn Forest and Northshire only have their own map ID, even, like, in Midnight, right? Eversong Woods, Sunwell, are like, the Isle of Quel'Danas, they all have their own map ID. For whatever reason, the Sunwell intro is 2 different map IDs stitched together. So, what I'm probably going to need to do, I tried to, like, throw together some code that's, like, it passed the map IDs as an array, and I just put 2 of them, and it was supposed to basically say, if this doesn't work, default to the other one, but it looks like that didn't work, right? What I'll probably need to do is just make it so I check every single objective, which map ID is it located in, and just do it manually, and, like, if that's what I gotta do, that's what I gotta do, right? But it should be fine, right? So we talked to Arator, this should... Yeah, that switches the turn-in. Exactly, yeah. Like, that's what I mean, Azero. If I have to hard-code it, like, I could just check, like, I know, obviously, whatever map ID I have as the default is not the one that's correct for this, so I would just hard-code it to use the other map ID for each of these objectives. But yeah, it would be annoying, especially because for this quest, the pickup of the quest is in one map ID, and then when you talk to Arator, you're already in the second one. It's just like... Alright. Okay, interesting, yeah, so I wasn't sure. I have separate steps for each of them, but instead it just starts with the first one. So yeah, I would have to change in the code to make it so instead of it just being like all of them tracking the objective, I would have to switch to tracking the individual line objective, which I did see that that's how WoW handles it. That's just one of those things where, like I said, I was not able to be in the game while coding this, so there's going to be some finicky stuff. But at least we can see that the general objective tracker works. Oops. Yo. Yeah, I mean, it still updates the turn-in state, so that's good. The fun of you are 80% done, you think it works, now the other 20% that takes actual time. A lot of the stuff that at least I think is going to take, or at least the most time, is, like, done already. And to be honest, right, I want to do this stuff because I am, like, giga OCD, and obviously I want it to look as pretty as possible. But at the end of the day, like, if I have to ship it like this, it's kind of good enough. You know, obviously not literally exactly like this, right? But we still have tons of time to polish it. If I can't get every last fancy feature that I want in at launch, well, that's fine, because it's an ongoing process. And I will just keep expanding, even if it is literally, like, during early access. I've already said this, I'm going to do my first leveling run, and then I'm probably going to immediately stop and go work on the add-on. And whatever... Oh, see, now you can see the arrows back! Woo! Because, like, for whatever reason, the turn-in point is within that other map ID. And now we're back to the other map ID. You know, it's a fucking cluster. I'll figure out how to do it. But, you know, is what it is. But honestly, like, all of the stuff that I didn't know how to do, and you can see, right, like, you know, it may not be perfect, but it is working. Why is Rising Sun King all the way over there? Like, it is at least working. Like, the add-on's not crashing, it's not, like, having a bug, because I did at least properly input, like, the fail states, right? So if it doesn't work correctly, it doesn't just explode, it just defaults to this, which normally the arrow would just disappear. Right, it's not, that's like a debug thing to let me know the arrow is not able to load the map ID, but that would not be in the final version. And the other thing is, this is also a Sunwell intro specific problem. I have already checked. The regular Midnight Zones work as you would expect, so that's not a problem. In the end, it's kind of beta early access. You should also kind of label it like that. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm going to make it clear that, you know, this is not like a finished product. It's an ongoing thing, and also it's free, right? Nobody's paying for it, so you know, it's the kind of thing of like you can get the add-on completely free, no strings attached. And if you want to donate money to support its future development, I will give people that option. But that will be 100% optional. And now we're like, yeah, this area, different map ID. It does seem like the other map ID is used for like all the fighting, and then one is used for like the turn in and pickup. And they phase it like that. Interesting. It's also good to know because I would imagine that even though it's like a seamless transition, if somebody is just picking up the quest, then they're in an entirely separate map, so they wouldn't get credit if like one of their party members killed Gloomstress down here. So that's something to keep in mind. Even if theoretically you would be within range, you wouldn't want your party members to actually kill it too early. So unintentionally kind of discovered some important information. This should be up here. We're probably gonna get kicked out like any moment now, by the way. I'm just, I'm going until Blizzard stops me. But they did say it was gonna be an hour, and it has officially been 1 hour, so... But usually when they're about to shut it down, they put like a server-wide announcement of like, thank you, and we're turning it off, so... We'll see. Oh, the arrow's back. We're back in the other map ID. Am I going to speedrun campaign and then do delves till max? So, I'm going to speedrun campaign on my druid. That much, yes, for sure. Ride the Dragonhawk. Is this... Yeah, so it's not registering. I have this as the Ride the Dragonhawk step, and then there's supposed to be steps for these other things. But again, I need to, update the code. So I'm guessing all of the code that I did to... like all the different steps, I'm just gonna have to go back and change that to work on like a per objective step basis. But at the very least, I have it all written out. I have all the steps for all the different things. Why did that not? I don't know why it didn't splash. Am I gonna open source it on GitHub?
You did it, champion.
I don't really know how to do that, so like. Long term, if enough people really want it, and people, like, explain to me how to do that, maybe. Is it a priority? Do I know how to do it right now? Absolutely not. So, that will probably not happen. If it does happen, it won't happen for a while. And, oh yeah, so, and as for how I'm gonna do my other tanks... obviously, for my, like, other characters, I'm going to do, like, alt-leveling stuff. But nobody's really testing alt-leveling on the beta, because it's just, A, it's kind of impossible. Oh, here's a good example of, like, launch day stuff. Normally, I wait to kill Blightclaw, but I'm gonna at least get the tag. So then, as this other person kills it, I can activate my little sentinel here. So I need to have this here. And then... It's a WoW add-on, it's all open source? Awesome. Yeah. Keep in mind, I'm still fairly new to all this stuff, so... You can confirm Dream Search is 5%? Cool, cool. I know a lot of you guys are, like, super knowledgeable software engineer people. So, obviously, like, if you have suggestions and stuff, as we, like, get underway with... As I'm working on the add-on, you're welcome to give suggestions. Now, I can't always guarantee that I'm going to listen to every suggestion people make. Like, normally I don't like excessive backseating, but I am, like, for stuff where I know that there's a lot that I don't know, then, yeah, like, I welcome feedback to an extent, right? But there will, at the end of the day, sometimes be things where I'm just like, I'm doing it my way, and that's just how it's gonna be. But we'll see. I'm more speaking broadly. I'm not saying for, like, any one thing in particular that I'm like, I'm definitely not doing that. I just don't want you to think that, like, oh, I can, like, tell Harldan, oh, you definitely should do this, and he'll 100% listen. Like, I'll take it into consideration, but there's absolutely no guarantee that, like, any change people suggest is automatically going into the add-on. They'll probably spam delves from 80 to 90. Yeah. Long term, it's almost certainly going to be something like that. But, what's it called? Let's see. It is good to know that at least whenever the add-on or the arrow is working, it looks like the coordinates that I got off Wowhead are accurate for this. So that's good. So I probably won't need to go update the actual, like, XY coordinates that I pulled off Wowhead. And, I mean, the quest IDs and stuff are working. Like, you can see the objective is tracking correctly. Where is it pointing me? I think yeah, I must have accidentally put the, like, Tyrallian's location as the, what's it called? As the location for the objective. That's an easy fix. Only delve quests gave decent XP. So when I say spamming delves, I mean, like, doing all of the different delves for their Delver's Call quests. You're obviously not going to want to spam one delve, but, like, each Delver's Call quest gives a lot of XP. Now, this is not something you want to do on your first character, but in the War Within, that was a very good alt-leveling method, because you could just, when you had all of the XP modifiers, like the 25% Warband bonus and all that stuff, you could do a bunch of the really good delves and, like, a handful of efficient side quests. And, I mean, War Within, prior to, obviously, all of, like, the Legion Remix shenanigans, War Within max level was pretty consistently 1 hour, from 70 to 80. And all of the stuff that was really good in the War Within is still here in Midnight, and the relative XP values seem to be the same. So I would imagine the alt-leveling route will be the same. Now, so to kind of touch back on the previous question, how am I going to level my tanks? The biggest thing is I'm not going to do it immediately. So, what's it called? And honestly, I think, like, for most people, unless you are planning to level, like, a metric fuckload of alts, do what I'm gonna suggest. They're shutting it down in 1 minute 15 seconds. Alright, let's try to get through this quest, then. There we are. So they gave us a few more minutes. Is it better to level up as a DPS or tank? Entirely depends on the spec. So the add-on... Oh, yeah. So this, we're in the correct phase. So the arrow is working here. I wonder if that means that it'll work for the rest of it. If this is all in the same map ID. 15 seconds. Go, go, go. Oh no, Xalatath won. Alright, yeah, so, by the way, not going to be a long stream, right? So what I'll do here is, obviously, the launch test is over. I haven't slept in a while, right? Just, I'm like, I have a shitload of adrenaline right now, I guess is probably the right way to describe it, because, you know, obviously, launch test, and this is all very exciting and whatnot. But not going to be a long stream. This is why it's also not on my main channel. I did it on the second channel. I don't think you can test the Netherstorm quests. I don't think they're working on the beta. But if somebody did manage to test it, then that would be cool. But yeah, so, you know, I'll leave it on the login screen. I'll just respond to chat messages, and then we'll end the stream once, you know, all questions and stuff have been answered. Let's see. I'm also just quickly looking at my Discord. Okay, yeah. Nothing super new. New tuning. Screw it. Let's read through the tuning on Wowhead. It looks like defensive tuning, so this is probably like Mage's got it. Yeah, Mage's got a defensive buff. Windwalker's got a defensive buff. Okay, nothing crazy. They nerfed Unholy defensives, and then they buffed the outliers. Alright, cool. That was probably needed. How many quests can you bank? I think like 30? I forget how big the quest log is. A notable thing is pet battle quests do not count towards your quest cap. So you can prep as many pet battle quests as you want, but it's other quests that you have to consider, like, when am I going to turn this in? How many do I want to bank up? Oh yeah, so I was going to show on the calendar, but, you know, I mean, you could check yourself later on. Darkwind Fair is going to start on the Sunday after Early Access. So, what's it called? Early Access starts on the 26th, and Darkwind Fair is on the 1st of March. So, that's only like a few days in. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to get my druid up to max level. I'm going to spend like the next 3 days doing a mix of like, you know, adding stuff to the add-on and doing endgame content. So I'm going to like mess around at max level, see what's available, see if there's any like limited time things that you could only do during the what's it called? During the early access period, because there were a few things like that, like a bit of an advantage that you can get in what's it called? In War Within. So I'll test that stuff. And then the moment on like, you know, Sunday morning 3 a.m., the moment that Darkwind Fair is up, I'm going to get that buff. I'm going to cycle through Darkwind Fair quest items on all my characters, and then I'm going to start multi-boxing my 2 accounts. So I have, you know, 2 WoW accounts. I'm going to start leveling up my tanks 2 at a time, and then they'll be 10% faster if I do it that way, and then obviously I'll get the Warband bonus that way, and that's how I'm going to do all my leveling. Will we have a VOD from the stream? Yes. I think Twitch saves VODs within like a week or so, but there will be a permanent VOD over on my stream archive channel, because I am currently multi-streaming over to YouTube right now. So on there, you can always watch it. How am I multi-boxing? Am I doing it manually? Yeah, I mean, that's the only way you can multi-box, right? Input forwarding is, like, not allowed. You can't do that. Multi-boxing is allowed. Input forwarding, different thing. Like, I technically, obviously, when people do input forwarding, it's usually for multi-boxing. But technically, input forwarding could also be, like, you're doing, like, a remote control from, like, your work or something. People have accidentally gotten banned for doing stuff like that. That you cannot do. Yeah, I manually multi-box, usually when I level characters that way throughout War Within. Just, you know, put one on follow or something like that, and then one of them, like, solos a delve, etc. No problem, Linku. 35 to keep 3 for campaign? Yeah. Generally, I think 3 quests is enough. Prop Paladin or Ret are actually very close. So, yeah, I would say that's probably the closest. They both have pros and cons. I'd say probably Ret, at least at the moment. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the strength of DPS and tanks varies wildly depending on the level that we're talking about. So the difference between a DPS at level 80 right now, so like for launch leveling, 80 to 90, the difference between a tank and a DPS is much lower, because if you are coming in here with a lot of gear, your baseline survivability is going to be a lot higher, and your relative damage is going to be a lot higher. And if your relative damage is a lot higher, mobs die faster, which then further boosts your survivability because you're not taking as much damage over the course of a fight. So, generally speaking, DPS are better than they normally would be in launch day situations like this. If you have a lot of gear, that is. But when we're talking about like lower level stuff, so alt leveling, etc., tanks are generally speaking a lot stronger because you can get away with doing much more aggressive pulls, even with like basically completely crap gear. So at very low levels, Prop Paladin is definitely the best way to go about it. On launch day, so for like 70 or 80 to 90, toss up, I'd say. Probably, if you have really good gear, I'd say Ret Paladin. There's cases where it's like, honestly, I think that Guardian Druid's probably the best Druid spec, but if you were like really good with Boomkin and had absolutely bisque gear, it would maybe be comparable, but you would definitely have a bit of a hard time towards the end. But Guardian is still very strong. And then there's some cases where, you know, like Windwalker is just much better than Brewmaster. Brewmaster is just like, its kit is kind of clunky for leveling. It's not bad. It's like solid. Same thing with like Prot Warrior. Is Prot Warrior bad for leveling? Not at all. Prot Warrior's solid. right? But generally speaking, Fury Warrior just has a much better kit for leveling overall. So Fury is, like, I would say noticeably better. What else? Demon Hunter, Havoc absolutely turbo gaps Vengeance. Vengeance also does not have a good leveling kit. That's actually probably one of the biggest differences. The gap between Havoc and Vengeance is very large. Blood is not a good leveling spec, actually. I would say the gap between, like, Frost and Holy and Blood is slightly larger than the gap between, like, Havoc and Vengeance. And then something that, like, people have been discussing to death in my Discord, so I guess I'll address it, is, like, Havoc versus Devourer. I think Havoc is better for leveling. Havoc's kit and melee in general tend to be better. Devourer's, like, very bursty, which doesn't really work super well for leveling. Like, if you have short intermittent bursts like Windwalker, where you have a bunch of smaller cooldowns, and you could do a pull, use a small cooldown, erase it, and then move on to the next pull, small cooldown, erase it, that's good. But when your entire damage is built around, like, or at least AoE damage is built around, like, Collapsing Star, that can be really clunky for leveling. Especially if you have, like, extended ramp-up time. Now, I've had some people say that they've felt like Devourer is fine if you know how to play it really well, and that's entirely possible. But I think it is pretty safe to say that, like, Havoc, which historically has been, like, one of the top 5 leveling specs for a very long time, is probably still better than Devourer in the right hands. Less to do with maybe Devourer being really bad. I'm sure Devourer could be solid at max level when played well. At low levels, I tested Devourer. Devourer is, like, one of the worst low-level specs in the entire game. It's really bad. It does not play well at lower levels, and I think a lot of people have realized that by now. With all of its, like, level 80 talents and optimized gear and stuff like that, could you probably do okay with it? Sure. But Havoc is just very good. Havoc has always been a very, very, very good leveling spec, so it's probably still better. When you dual level, do you have your second character follow around? Yeah, I usually just literally put my second character on follow, and then just make sure it doesn't, like, the follow doesn't break as I play my main. People say Devourer is good leveling. Well, so, okay. When I say Devourer is, like, at least solid and maybe comparable to Havoc, that is assuming you are in War Mode, yes. So, the War Mode talents are basically required to make Devourer leveling not completely dogshit. Outside of War Mode, Devourer is not good. Just straight up. Those War Mode talents are very strong, and yes, if you have right gear, if you know how to play Devourer, and you are using those War Mode talents, then it might be solid. I still do not think it is better than Havoc. And I think, based on the discussion in my Discord from a lot of people who have said they've done testing on both, generally speaking, the sentiment seems to be that it's, Havoc is better, but we'll see. Opinion on Frost versus Unholy? I don't know either spec post pre-patch changes enough. I have not played around with it much at all. Generally speaking, historically, on, like, launch situations, they've been very, very, very close, and really it's just a matter of which one is tuned better or which one you are better at playing. I think, on average, like, we're talking, like, past expansions, not right now. Like I said, I don't know exactly where it falls at this exact moment in time. Historically, Frost has just been better because the thing that I described earlier of, like, more focused, shorter burst windows, Frost has generally been better about that, where you can, like, round up a bunch of mobs, pop a few, like, 1 minute cooldowns or something, and just quickly erase it. And Frost does really well in those cases, and that is exactly what you want for leveling. Generally, in the past, Unholy was more built around, like, more longer cooldowns, like 2 to 3 minute CDs, and it takes, like, 30 seconds to get, like, the full value out of, like, Dark Transformation or whatever the fuck. I don't really know how Unholy plays at this exact moment in time. I haven't looked into it. So, if Unholy is, like, closer in terms of its damage profile to Frost, then it would probably be comparable. But even in those situations where, like, Unholy's kit was a little bit clunky for leveling, it's still, like, Death Knight is just unkillable, right? So Death Knight is basically, even in DPS spec, a tank in terms of its survivability, and it still does good damage. So, at very low levels, Unholy is not great. But historically, Unholy has always been at least pretty good once you get your entire kit, and I don't think that would change. But as for which one's better, don't know. Probably very comparable, though, I would imagine. So I would say, in that case, just pick whichever one you personally feel more comfortable with, unless Like, Unholy... I know Unholy was doing crazy damage early on in pre-patch, but it got nerfed. I don't know where it is right now. I haven't looked into it. Live streamer said hello. Hello, live streamer. You're thinking of prop Hallie with your priest following her on? Yeah, a lot of times if I have to level something like a rogue, a priest, etc., I will just, like, multi-box it with my other account that's, like, playing a really strong spec. So I'll probably do that, honestly, when I multi-box level at the, like, expansion launch. My very first character, though, my druid, on launch day, I'm just going to level that solo. I'm not going to multi-box, like, my very first character. But for alt leveling, once Darkwind Fair is up, I will probably level 2 characters at once. See, was war mode 25%? I think it was, but I don't actually think I literally, like, explicitly looked. So, what's it called? But yeah, I would imagine it is. I think that is just, like, the change that they're going with for war mode. Okay, Lingu checked. Yeah, it was 25. I figured that wouldn't change. That war mode, I don't think that's a bug. I'm pretty sure that is a deliberate change they made. Dream Surge obviously is one of those things where it has existed all of War Within, but it was very clearly an oversight that they didn't want to have happen. Now, the interesting thing is, Dream Surge getting nerfed is going to retroactively make 70 to 80 leveling a little bit more of a pain for alts. I don't think that changes on live yet, though. So, we're good for pre-patch at least. You level boosted your first character and you kind of regret it because you don't know what to do. I mean, right now, I would say just do the pre-patch event. Just, like, get familiarized with the game. Everything's going to change in, like, 1 week anyway, so I wouldn't sweat it too much. And also, leveling a character... Now, I'm not going to say this is a good thing, right? I do think it is a problem that the leveling process these days really doesn't teach you anything. You don't really lose anything by boosting a character. So... The leveling process teaches you basically nothing. You would be just as confused if you leveled and hit max level as you would by boosting a character. The new player experience for World of Warcraft, unfortunately, is very, very, very out of date. And extra unfortunately, they updated, like, I'm doing heavy air quotes IRL right now, updated the new player experience in Midnight. And that is to say, they did a dog shit job with it. The changes they made are just, like, nonsense changes that don't really meaningfully change the new player experience. It's still just as shit in Midnight as it was before. If anything, by some miracle, they managed to make the new player experience worse with their updates. Like, they actually made Exile's Reach dog shit. It's... I don't know. I really don't know how they fucked it up that badly. I'm not going to say every other MMO. A lot of other MMOs have gotten that right. And it is by far World of Warcraft's biggest weakness, because, like, you need new players in this genre to keep the MMO going. So, like, do I still enjoy playing the game? Yeah, but I've also been playing the game since I was 5 years old. But, I have all of that historical knowledge banked up. Somebody brand new to the game is not going to have that, and they really need to make the new player experience better. Like, significantly better. They basically just reworked Exile's Reach, the same new player experience we've had for years, somehow made it worse, and then said, job's done. You know, we made an updated new player experience, guys. This totally makes sense. And then they made, like, a Dragonflight campaign, as if that's, like, important at all. Basically, their new player experience is like a story new player experience. If you are unfamiliar with the Trashfire lore that they have implemented within the last, like, 5 years, I guess the new player experience does a decent job of getting you somewhat familiarized with, like, their high school fanfic tier writing. But in terms of getting you familiar with the actual mechanics of the game, it does none of that. It does arguably a worse job of that. And that is the important part. When people say, we want a new player catch-up experience, they don't mean we want a summary of the story thus far. They want the players to be, like, eased into the game and taught fundamental mechanics. Which, you know, I guess at the very least, it's on their radar. They understand that it is an important thing they need to be working on. I think they're just kind of bad at their job sometimes, and don't really know how to do that correctly. So, we'll see. Maybe they get it right eventually. What you're thinking is that we have no Horde as Alliance in the intro? No. We definitely have Horde. I've seen Horde players in the Sunwell intro. Now, it might be that some layers are just Alliance dominant, and you also have to keep in mind, most people play Alliance. It is very much more slanted Alliance in favor of Horde these days. I also, during this particular test, I didn't see a single Horde player, but I have, while leveling some other characters, rarely seen another Horde player in the intro. It happens. You were like 6 when Mists of Pandaria came out, and you always thought it was cool, and now years later you thought, let's try it. It's definitely a lot easier to get into now than it was back in, like, MoP, but... I mean, there's still a long ways that they need to go. And don't get me wrong, I think it is worth learning the game. I think it is a fun game. It's just, it's one of those games where you are going to have to put in the legwork to research things on your own and understand, like, okay, what the fuck is this system and how do I benefit from it and stuff like that. And the game won't really explain things well. World of Warcraft is a really fun game that you basically can only play with third-party resources. Which, again, Blizzard has acknowledged is a problem, and they are making steps to fix that. Like, their entire crusade against add-ons is, you know, an indicator that they are aware it's a problem. But that is not meaningfully changing in Midnight. A lot of the extreme steps that they took in the beta got, understandably, a lot of backlash, and they've rolled some of that back. So, really, the game is not going to be fundamentally different than it was before, except that a lot of specs are going to feel way more dumbed down than they were before. Which, like, spec complexity was not what was holding WoW back. If anything, I think that the spec complexity being reduced is going to hurt the game. And I don't know. I'm wondering how long it takes Blizzard to realize that, right? The people who didn't like complicated specs weren't not playing Arcane Mage because it was too complicated. They were playing Rep Paladin. And they're not magically going to start playing Arcane Mage just because it's easier now. You know, it's... I don't know. I'm not going to go on that rant for like the 50th time. But I think that they did a shit job with that. A lot of guides are kind of helpful, but they don't really explain a step-by-step guide to get into endgame. Yeah, I made one of those, like, back in Undermine. It's a very complicated topic to make. Now, that guide, when I made it, was well-received. And I thought about making one for the final season of War Within, but I just had way too much going on. I'd like to do that again for Midnight, but again, it's just a very complicated subject. And yeah, it's also one of those things where, like, videos like that are tricky, because obviously you want it to be as detailed as possible and give, like, the best possible information, but the earlier that you make that video, the less valid your information is going to be. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you have no way of knowing. New stuff will get discovered. There's, like, ways to optimize things. Changes will happen since you make the guide. And so in the long term, it won't really be that useful. But then also from, like, a YouTube perspective, the longer that you take to make that guide, the better it might be for the people who are joining the game later. But then the audience of people who are going to be looking for a guide like that is going to be smaller, so you're getting less return on all of the time that you're spending making that video, which is why it's a really tricky trade-off and why 99% of YouTubers just let it rip on launch and then never really make any meaningful updates, which means that it's just not that useful in a lot of cases, unless you're looking for, like, the bare-bones basic information. But we'll see. Yeah, videos are just so quickly outdated. Like, that's why when I made my video back in Undermine, I made a video, like, a month or so into the patch, but in order to basically be able to produce that video, it was largely unscripted. I basically just walked through, hey, I'm setting up a new character, and I'm going to explain my choices as I progress through it, and why you should or shouldn't do XYZ thing. And a format like that, I mean, the final video was 3 hours long, right? It was unscripted, I'm just kind of rambling for a lot of stuff. Now, like I said, it was really well received. It got decent viewership, way more than I thought it would, and pretty much everybody who watched that video said they loved it and they wanted a new one, but it still took some time to make. It was at least, like, easy enough to record to where I could, like, justify doing it, but the only reason I even recorded it is because I was planning on getting an alt geared up anyways, so I'm like, I may as well document this process and then talk through my reasoning. But it's really hard to just, like, find the time to sit down and record all of that if you're not doing it anyway. And I tried to do that in Midnight, and actually the only reason I really didn't make that video for, not Midnight, War Within Season 3, the only reason I didn't do that for the final season is because while I was about halfway through making that video, they made like a lot of changes to delves and stuff like that, and how some of the turbos gearing worked. And I would have had to like re-record large sections of what I had already done, and I'm just like, it's not worth it. So I just scrapped the video. But unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times, right? I had to make that judgment call. What framework am I using for the add-on? I built my own new thing. So if you want to go back and watch, I showed some of it, right? If you want to see, it's completely from scratch, from the ground up. I built my own add-on. It is not built on top of other stuff. Now, I referenced, like, when I was building the arrow, I looked at, like, TomTom's code to see, like, hey, how did TomTom do it, right? To understand better. But then I still built built the damn thing myself, right? I made my own arrow. I used the code as, like, an understanding point of, like, okay, this is how they're doing it. They're referencing the cells in the sprite sheet. But also, like, the way that TomTom built their sprite sheet was completely different. So, like, the logic that I used to calculate the values and stuff, I had to do from scratch. But, don't apologize. Yeah, don't apologize. I'm just explaining. But yeah, no. It's entirely my own add-on. And, like, so, kind of expanding upon that, right? The main reason why I've always said this entire time, two main reasons, I guess, why if I'm going to make a leveling guide, it's going to be my own add-on that I build myself from scratch. One is, if I'm going to do that, I want to learn it, right? And I have learned already over the last few months, and especially in the last week, actually building this add-on, I've learned a shit ton about Lua, right? And that's, I like learning new things. It's just fun. I like learning more. So if I'm going to basically have to do the add-on, at all, I'm not going to, like, say, oh, I'm going to outsource, like, different parts of the add-on to different people, and I'm only going to do the guide and stuff. I've been making guides for years. I'm, like, super ADHD. I like new things. Making a leveling guide is something I've done 50 million times. Making a leveling add-on is a new challenge that I've never done before, so it's interesting. So now I basically get to learn how to do that. So that's a plus, right? But the other, like, I would say the bigger reason is because if it's my own add-on, like, I have a lot of ideas on how to expand this in the future. Like, what we're going to get from Midnight Launch is a very basic version that is going to serve a purpose. It's going to let you guys follow the route. And then I'm going to just keep building and building and building and building and building. And my hope is that, like, a year from now, the add-on is going to be unrecognizable. It's just going to be so much more detailed and stuff like that. But I have all these really cool ideas for stuff that I want to do with it, but I can't actually do that unless I have my own platform to build it. I'm not going to try to, like, take an add-on that somebody else has already built and, like, try and force my vision into this pre-existing format. I'm going to build my own thing from scratch, because then if I want to expand it, I have full creative freedom over how I want to change it. And I don't want to give spoilers of some of the cool ideas that I have on how I can expand it, but I know that those ideas would not fit cleanly into any pre-existing format. So I'm going to build it myself. The test already already finished, yeah. So the launch test is already done. It only ran for an hour, and I'm finishing answering up questions in chat, and then we're going to end the stream. Yeah. Sorry if that was not clear. I said that before, but obviously, I guess if you're just joining now. All right, let me read through. Getting into the stream after the test. Hey, the entire VOD is up there. You can watch everything still. Average Siege said, hey, Harldan, I'm a mage main. What spec would you suggest for leveling in Midnight? So mage is a bit of a weird case because, like, mage as a whole, it's not, like, one of the best leveling specs, but it's also not bad. And you kind of play a lot of the specs kind of the same for leveling. So that's one of those cases where it's more like really whatever one just does the most damage, in a sense. Now, I've heard Arcane is in a weird spot at the moment. Now, in Mythic Plus dungeons, the Arcane Mage in my guilds, when we do M Plus testing, does, like, crazy damage. But then, like, I don't know. I've seen conflicting info on that. Fire, I've heard, is alright, but for leveling, you know, Fire's AoE apparently isn't super great and relies more on, like, Ignite spreading at the moment, I think. Not a mage expert, again, so I'm going based on what I have heard and seen from other mage players. So I don't think Fire would work super well for leveling, because obviously relying on, like, Ignite spreading as your main source of AoE is probably not super consistent. I've heard Frost is decent, but I don't really know much about Frost, and Frost historically, at lower levels especially, has been a bit more turrety. And that didn't translate the best into leveling, but being turrety isn't, like, the worst thing ever. The main downside... Yeah, the test ended, Shards of Stone. You can watch the VOD, though. It'll be up on my channel. And we'll be ending stream shortly anyway, so you'll be able to watch the VOD very, very soon. I think you're watching on YouTube, though, so you could just very quickly scrub back in the, you know, the little viewer thing and see it. But yeah, like, generally, if you're decently geared, being turrety is not bad, because as long as you round up the mobs and kill them before they kill you, that's fine. It's just, mage obviously can be a bit squishy, so especially at lower gear levels, like for 10 to 80, basically, Frost has historically struggled a little bit, because you need to keep running. You're kiting, but you're not mobile, which is a bit tricky. If you could sit there, do all your AoE, and, like, face tank the mobs if needed, Frost, from what I remember, is fine. It also might have changed with the updates, so I don't know. I think you probably can't go wrong with any of the 3 mage specs, as long as you have decent gear, but probably either Arcane or Frost. Historically, Arcane has been the best mage leveling spec, but it also got a lot of changes, and I have not had time to play Arcane at all since the Midnight changes, so I cannot speak to it personally. Mighty Harldan, would you like a boar? So that's my dad asking, basically, do you want a burger? I'm assuming they're getting DoorDash. I don't know if he's still watching. But obviously he sent that while I was doing the launch test. I'm assuming you realized I was busy, but didn't already, then yes, please, burger. Thanks for getting to my question, no problem. Do I think Siren Isle will get nerfed before launch? I have no idea. I mean, like, so if they nerf Siren Isle, I figured Siren Isle would be a good spot for open world boosting. I think I mentioned that literally in my Discord, that that's probably going to be the spot people go to. Because, like, people already use it right now. Obviously, if you need a spot for 80 to 81, yeah, people are going to use it. Do I think it'll get nerfed? I don't know. Like, there's a good chance. But at the same time, Blizzard has left a lot of those spots untouched before. And if they nerf Siren Isle, there are going to be other spots. There's, like, if you're following discussions in my Discord server, like, people have already discussed how there's, like, ridiculous potential for, like, hyperspawns and stuff with some of the oversights Blizzard has with, like, housing and whatnot. Whatever strategy, I don't know what it's going to be for World First. At this point, I don't care. It's like, the main thing I wanted fixed was War Within crafting, just because, like, that would cause an actual ripple effect on, like, standard alt leveling runs that people do outside of, like, Race to World First shit. And they fixed that, so, like, okay. All of this other shit that people are doing for World First, none of that is going to matter at all for, like, actual alt leveling, so I don't really care. That's, like, only launch day shit. And if Blizzard fixes that, cool, I guess, but I am not going for World First. I'm going for campaign, and I'm just going to do a solid campaign run, and none of that stuff really particularly matters. So, I have no horse in this race, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But do I think Blizzard will fix it? I don't know. Hard to say. There's a chance, but I would not say it's 100%. Does my add-on have prep stuff? No. So if you haven't seen my prep video, by the way, so I'm not gonna, like, call this out directly, but if an add-on hypothetically were to have a prep guide built into the add-on format, that would just be completely fucking stupid, because that is a terrible format for a prep guide. If you want a good prep guide, I'll post this in both YouTube and Twitch chat. I already made one. This is a much better format. Like, following step-by-step instructions for how to set up quests. You don't need that shit, right? Just do that. Now, I will there's some information like consumables and quests and stuff that I've left out, and that has been discussed either in my speedrun, which I linked earlier in the chat, or it's been discussed to death in my Discord, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just a dog shit format, so no, my add-on will not do that. Not only is, like, my add-on's going to be released much closer to launch, right? So it would be pointless anyway, but even in, like, going forward in future expansions, like for The Last Titan, am I going to have a prep guide built into my add-on? Fuck no, that's dumb. I'm going to make a prep video. I might make, like, a prep document. Am I going to build a route in there for preparation? Who the fuck would do that? Unless you needed to keep it behind a paywall. Hypothetically, that's why somebody might do that. That's why somebody might use a garbage format for it. Maybe because they need to paywall it. And if they made it publicly available, then they couldn't make money off clueless idiots. Well, no, I guess to be clear, I would never put that stuff behind Patreon. Yeah. I already said, I'm gonna make a Patreon. It's gonna be, like, entirely bonus stuff. Like, add-on polls, add-on, like, update videos of, like, here's the plan, and I basically do what I do now, and I just ramble for an hour about, like, here's what I'm working on, that kind of thing. And stuff like that. Any, like, important information would never be gatekept behind Patreon. Any, like, actual, like, real add-on updates, like public add-on updates, that's all going to be completely free to access, none of that stuff. Fuck paid add-ons, fuck paywalling info, fuck anybody who does that. Not going to be something I do. And hold me to that, right? Definitely hold me to that. If I go back on that, fucking burn me at the stake. But I won't, right? I know I won't, because this is not like me posturing, right? This is just genuinely something that I've been saying for years, pisses me off. So, you know. Mage is a frost angle because you need to gather the mobs and kite them. Yeah, but Arcane has always been able to do that as well, right? Arcane has been a very good kite spec for a long time. Fire, when Fire has a good leveling build, Fire can also kite. All three mage specs can kite. It's just the way that the different mage specs kite has been a lot different historically. Fire kites just by being ridiculously mobile and just kind of circling around mobs, and because basically all of Fire's shit is cast while moving, you could just keep running. So you just run, the mobs get to you, blink through them, run through them again, and you're just constantly, like, Scorch, Fire Blast, Pyro Blast while moving. Like, you're always moving as Fire. I think it still works mostly like that. Arcane has always had, like, a lot of abilities that you can cast while moving, and it also had, what's it called, like, Chrono Shift, where it's like your Arcane Barrage will speed you up and slow down the mobs. So, generally speaking, like, way back in the olden days, when Arcane was really good for leveling, you would stay just out of melee range, and then do Arcane Explosion, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Barrage, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Barrage. And that would just melt gigantic packs of mobs, and they couldn't hit you, because you just barely outran them. And then Frost, well, Frost just slows down the mobs with, like, Blizzard or whatever the fuck. But all three mage specs can kite really well, just different ways that they kite. You'd vote Frost as well. Now the Giga Frozen Shard thing replaces Frostbolt. The giant frost thing that comes down from the air are both procs. If they're AoE, then yeah, that could be good. Like I said, I don't know enough about how their damage profiles work with the reworks, but I definitely see that. But if it is Frost, it's not because of its ability to kite. It would be entirely because of its damage profile. The main thing is conditionals for shit you've already done. Yeah, but, like, here's the thing. I would rather not treat my audience like morons, right? If I provide you with, like, a checklist, you know, it's pretty easy to go through and see, okay, I know I've already done this, so I'm just not going to prep this step. And the other thing is, like, if you want to check, have I done this in game, you can manually do that yourself, right? Like, you can go, there's a script that you can run for any quest. Has quest been completed? Like, /run, quest been completed, whatever. Put in the quest ID, hit enter in-game, and it'll show yes or no if you've done the quest already. So when add-ons are showing you, like, you know, conditionals of has this quest already been done, they're basically just running that code for you. That you can just copy-paste, put enter in your chat window, and check if you've already done this pre-quest. If you somehow forget whether you've done it or not. But also, a lot of the one-time account things I never put in my pre-quest guides anyway, because a lot of them are, like, giga min-maxy stuff, like, oh, the balloon quest, or, like, the trading post-quest, stuff that 99% of people have already done, the stuff that I always recommend is the basics. Cooking Fishing Daily in Orgrimmar Stormwind, and the 5 universal pet battle quests, which has been a staple since literally Mists of Pandaria Classic. Well, original Mists of Pandaria and in Classic too. It's been those same pre-quests. Now, sometimes there are extras, right? If you want to go above and beyond, you can just do a pet battle quest world tour. But all of the other stuff, that's like so extra. And then sometimes there are specific, really important things like the Gidwin's Hearthstone, where I'm like, okay, that's not really a pre-quest so much as it's like you're getting a free teleport from this quest item. So I mentioned that. But that's also like, that is a pre-quest that saves 3 minutes. That's pretty good. Paywalling guides for retail is crazy? Yeah. You want to know what's even crazier than paywalling guides for retail? Buying a paid guide in retail. Now, the funny thing is, remember when I said, like, I try to treat my audience like, intelligent people and assume that they can, like, think for themselves? The problem is, when you're designing a paid add-on, you can't really have that assumption. So the people designing these paid add-ons, they need to treat their audience like literal toddlers, because only a literal toddler would pay money for a retail add-on. So, like, basically, it's, by definition, the audience for those guides is just really stupid. So they have to be designed for, like, the lowest common denominator. What is my expectation after this test? Is it really going to be Ma 2.0? So, I got a little bit lucky, I think. I had a really, really, really smooth intro. I didn't see anybody else. I think I just got onto, like, a dead shard. But all of the things that I outlined, like, they're still problems, right? And, like, you could see that in my run, there was somebody there who was fighting a mob already. And the other thing that I'm not waiting for anything. It's just the test ended. I'm just answering questions in chat, and then we're going to end stream the moment I answer every question. But the other thing is, like, a launch test is not an accurate simulation of an actual launch, right? Like, there were nowhere near as many people on that launch test. Like, even the Fairbreeze Village, where you could see, by the way, when we got to Fairbreeze Village, there were a lot of people as the test went on, and I'm just sitting there and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people there, and that is still, like, not even the entire capacity of, like, a single server on launch. So it's really hard to say. And that stuff, like, it kind of snowballs out of control. With, like, a handful of people, most quest zones will function normally, within reason. But then when it reaches, like, an extreme, especially on war mode, right, where tags are not shared, that's when you start to have bottleneck issues. And the bottleneck issues, like, they're still there, no matter what. So it's not like everything I said about it is the same. Now, I will give them credit, right? The server stability seemed pretty good. It was good in War Within too, so that's not really my concern. Now, I even jokingly said that in my Sunwell intro video. Like, me calling it Ma 2.0, like, it's kind of clickbait, right? A little bit clickbait. I more meant that the format of the questline is much closer to the Ma than any other expansion launch we've had, and there is more potential for bottlenecks. But the other problem is that it's not even just the Sunwell intro. The Sunwell intro is, like, the first bottleneck. It itself is a larger bottleneck that leads to the bottleneck of Eversong Woods, because that is still a singular area, and there are some potential bottlenecks throughout the questline. So if you fall behind on the Sunwell intro, it's going to be a bit of a slog going through the entire first zone period. And the 20-second Leatrix skip, 28-second Leatrix skip, that does make a huge difference. I will note, though, I did not use that for this test. Like, I think, theoretically, there were different phases. If I had gone on my second account and gotten onto a different phase, you might have been able to do that, but I didn't. I figured it wouldn't have even been possible, so I didn't bother setting that up. But obviously, yeah, on launch, if you pull that off, which is not going to be hard to reproduce if you're really going for it, that definitely will make a colossal difference. Azero, if you're watching, I'll check that out. I'll read it after. Patreon Harldan, $1 tier. Harldan will rant about the subject of your choice for 15 minutes. I feel like, if I basically said like, hey, $1 gets you a 15-minute rant, I think I know at least a good amount of you who would be willing to pay that too much to where I would need to make that a more expensive tier, or I'm going to be ranting for the rest of my life. We'll see. We'll see. I know you don't like certain add-ons. You don't either. You just find following a Google Doc much more annoying than an arrow. Yeah, for sure. Which is, why I'm doing this. That is literally why I'm doing this. I understand that people prefer that. It's just been one of those things where, like, up until now, it hasn't been really practical. But we'll see. Crazy thing you've seen is retail guides where you have to pay more to get both Horde and Ally. Yes! Oh my god. I cannot believe that's still a thing, right? Yeah, the fact that some of those guides advertise, like, bundles for both factions, and it's like, what do you mean? Midnight 80 to 90 is the same for both factions, except one of them starts in Stormwind and one of them starts in Orgrimmar. Like, they can get away with that in Classic, where it's basically a fundamentally different leveling route, but the fact that they still think that they can sneak that business model in, it's absolutely diabolical shit, dude. I'm glad you brought that up, because yeah, I don't think I explicitly called attention to that, but I saw that, and I was like, what the fuck do they think they're doing? I mean, the answer is clear. They think that the people who are buying it are dumb enough to pay for it, and I imagine a lot of them are. Because like I said, that's their audience. Maybe the play is not to instantly port to Sunwell. No, the play is definitely to instantly port to Sunwell, because keep in mind, the campaign, assuming you're doing the campaign route, which you have to, so the play for launch is one of two things. You are either instantly porting to Sunwell and trying to get as far ahead in the questline as you can, so that you can get through the campaign ASAP, or you can do like, my guild leader basically said, yeah, I'm going to take the strat where I'm just not going to play on launch, and I'm going to log in at like midnight or 1 a.m., and I'm going to do the questline then. And like, yeah, if you log in like 6 hours after launch, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, all of the stuff that we talk about, bottlenecks, getting ahead of the pack, all that stuff, that's like on launch. Like, on literal launch, you're logging in with everybody else trying to get through. If you're like, I'm going to level at 3 in the morning, even on launch day, it's going to be really empty. Probably. I mean, you'll still have some people to compete with, but it's going to be way more empty than if you're there on launch. But if you are there, the moment the servers go up, there's one of two things. Either you are going for world first. So the people who are going for world first, I've talked to a few of them, and they all have like strategies that revolve around like, they need to do stuff out in the open world before entering the Sunwell intro, just because like there are certain things that scale from like 80 to 81 or to 82 or something like that don't scale beyond that. And again, and this is stuff that is like impractical for 99% of people. So don't even get ideas. I'm not going to share their strategies because I'm not going to leak, but some of them have told me, and like, I'm like, yeah, okay, there's no way you'd ever do that as like a normal person. But for them, if they do that, and then they like unlock access to midnight zones after the fact, and then once they're in midnight zones, they go and do something else, in that case, they are going to be slowed down slightly by the Sunwell intro by starting late, but not by a meaningful enough difference to make it so getting like the first 2 levels in different areas is going to just massively speed up their leveling times. So those people have like their own shit that they're doing. And for them, it's okay, because they're also not doing the entire campaign. They're just getting through the Sunwell intro, getting to Silvermoon, and then fucking off to like one of the zones to do some broken thing, right? So that's a separate story, but if your goal is to do the entire campaign, which everybody will have to do eventually, so even those people going for world first, they're still going to have to go back and do the campaign on like character number 2, right? And they obviously don't care. They're trying to just get through it as quickly as possible, because like prestige, right? To be like, hey, I did this cool thing. And more power to them, right? If that's what they want to do, sure. But I am not in that race. I just want to get through the campaign as quickly as possible because I don't want to have to do it a second time. And my goal, obviously, is to optimize that. And if you are optimizing campaign completion on launch day, you need to go to the Sunwell intro ASAP. The longer you wait, the more you're going to fall behind, unless, again, you just deliberately do not care. And you're just like, whatever, I'm going to play like hours after launch, which then it doesn't make a huge difference. Last 2 X-Packs, you did so much min-maxing for leveling and gave all your info and routes to add-on creators that made free guide add-ons. Hate how one add-on has all the market for guides because they paywall it. Yep. Yeah, I've always tried to share information. I mean, we even like had this discussion in my my like speedrun that I did last week, where I made like a forum post talking about like the War Within crafting stuff, and I had some dude crash out at me in my Discord server, accusing me of like sabotaging the world first race, and like saying that, you know, the fact that I am sharing information is bad because in his utopia everybody would just do what they could do to get ahead. And it's just like, some of these people are just fucking deranged, man. And I've always just been like, yeah, freedom of information. Everybody should have access to the same stuff. If you want to win, do it because you're just better than another person. Don't do it because, like, I did a better job strat hoarding than this other person. That's lame. And then also, like, obviously there's, like, the speedrun angle, but, I do my speedruns for fun, and, like, I have been in, like, you know, the Legion Remix speedrun competition is a very recent thing. Not, like, an official competition, but it was definitely a, you know, an informal back-and-forth competition. And, I mean, luckily, in the end, I came out on top there. But in situations like that, there is, like, a bit more, like, cloak and dagger, like, keep your strats to yourself, when it's, like, it doesn't apply to 99% of people. But especially when it's, like, something that people can actually benefit from. Where, like, hey, if you share this information, it will just allow the entire rest of the player base to level their characters faster. It's just a dick move to keep it to yourself. So, I've never done that, and I will never do that. The add-on stuff makes zero sense? Yeah, exactly. Agreed, Crazy Jester. People are idiots, period. Yep. You ended up writing your own route for stuff because the paid guides sucked for actual speed? Yes. Oh my god. Don't even get me started. Like, I'm not going to go on that tangent, but yeah, the paywalled guides are not even good. Like, let's be real here. For the last few years, the paywalled guides have just copied my homework and changed it up slightly to make it worse, mind you. To make it look like, oh, I'm not just directly copying Harldan's route. But, like, what are they going to do? Make a shittier route? Like, my route is just the best, so are they just going to do something worse? No. Obviously, they're smart enough to at least understand that they need to copy my route, but that's all they're doing. So, they copy my route, they add in some random fuck-off zones that aren't actually fast because it's technically not a one-to-one copy, so people can't accuse them of that. And, in the end, it's just worse. Now, I have the luxury of, writing my own damn guides and creating my own routes, so I'm just gonna put the actual fastest route in there, and not shove random fuck-off zones in the middle for no apparent reason other than being different. Yeah, the Utopia thing. Oh yeah, so fun update on that, by the way. I went back, I went to screenshot the DM just to be like, I wonder, like, am I gonna need this in the future? And he deleted it. So he watched the stream. He must have heard me say that, because there is literally, like, there is me saying something, and then there's the place where before he said, I am shaking with anger right now, and then that is just gone, and now all you can see me is, like, saying, I'm responding to, message has been deleted, and then I forget exactly what I said, it was something like, buddy, if that's how you actually feel, then you maybe need to rethink your philosophy on this, or something like that. So unfortunately, I didn't get to screenshot that in time. I didn't have the idea to take a picture until later, but it does mean that we know for a fact he saw that stream, which is kind of funny. You have a saying, God has created 1,000 suckers just to support one shrewd guy. That's an interesting saying. You love the hype at midnight with 30 people on disc and get 93 levels ahead of everybody else. Yeah. And then the fact you need to level 16 characters before the Wednesday? Jesus Christ, how many splits is your guild doing? I guess I'm probably going to level a similar amount of characters, but the vast majority of people in my guild are only leveling 3. I just happen to like creating a lot of alts, but we're only doing 3 split runs. But I don't know, maybe you're in like a top 10 or top 20 guild or something like that, and you're doing crazy splits. One of the main speedrun.com moderators is not a mod for the paid add-on? Are you saying is now a mod? Because I'm aware of their connection. I made a video about their connection. You only do 3 splits in your guild, but you're going to go ham on boosting. Fair enough, yeah. Any place you can find the fastest pre-quest guide? I'll link it again. Is this still my... Yeah, that should be my pre-quest guide. Or rather, that's my preparation guide. If what you want is specifically pre-quest information, all of that information is in my Discord server. I will be posting like a more concise write-up closer to launch, once we know like what Blizzard is nerfing and what they're not. But a lot of the stuff you either can't really do, it was either like limited, you can only do it a while ago, or it's like hyper min-maxy, like, you know, once per account stuff that you probably don't even have access to. All of the really important ones that you can actually take advantage of, all of that stuff is either already been discussed in my Discord, or I will post like a detailed write-up of it with like 2 days left to go, and that will give you plenty of time to get all the really important ones out of the way. You only have 40 mil? Jeez. I can never sit on that much gold. I have already spent like over 1 million gold on speed BOEs. Like the last month of sales gold I've already blown. And that every single time I'm just like, oh nice, I made a few million off sales. Time to blow it all in random shit. I'm really bad at saving gold. But you know, I use it for practical stuff, right? I don't like sitting on my gold like a dragon. I like to spend it on things that I think, you know, will make the speedruns better or whatever. Oh yeah, the speedrun.com thing, that's a whole topic. Azuro knows. Get into a top guild and make a name for yourself. Yeah, well, there's like multiple layers of boosting, right? Like I don't do like individual boosts these days. Like back in the day, back in, you know, Shake's Fisted Air, like back in my day, in like Warlords of Draenor and Legion, like I sold a shitload of like challenge mode and later Mythic Plus carries, and like those, either you have to be in a boosting community, like, or well, again, back in my day, we just advertised in trade chat and found our buyers ourselves. And like that was one way to sell boosts. But these days, a lot of it is done through boosting communities, and it is kind of like Clara DK said. A lot of the boosting communities have like sign-up processes where you have to like post your logs and get vetted or whatever, and then they'll like slot you into runs or something like that. Honestly, I have not done any boosting in years. I know vaguely how it works because like I've had friends who have run boosting communities, and like every few years they would, well, I would say like every year or so, one of them would be like, hey, could you like help us out with like a, you know, heroic AOTC run or something like that? I'm just like, fucking fine. And usually they're like, well, we need you to do like the official sign-up process so that we can actually pay you for the run. I'm just like, whatever. So I've seen at least some of how it's worked, but I've never actually had to do that because usually it's just like, I know a guy. That's the other thing. That's the other way you get into boosting. You know a guy, right? If you know one of the people who runs the boosting communities, well, they probably just know you and will be able to expedite that process. Or the only way that I do boosting these days is my guild does sales. So my guild did Mythic Dementia sales for like the last month or two of the patch. And that's just like, I just show up to raid like I normally would, and we get gold for it because we're carrying somebody. That's like the easiest way to do boosts because I have to put in 0 effort. I do what I would normally do, and, you know, you get money in the mail. W. Here in pre-patch you do about 17 Dimmy kills a week? Jesus Christ. That's a lot. But I mean, I guess with how nerfed it is, yeah. You made 10 mil in a week selling 21s to people? Sheesh. That's a lot. You got lucky that you found a nice community to boost with? Yeah. Yeah, like, I think one of the main reasons I also stopped doing boosts is because, like, back in the day, before I did YouTube and whatnot, it's like, hey, if it's, like, downtime of a patch and I have nothing else to do, it's nice to make gold. But the reality is, these days, it's like, okay, downtime in a patch, I'm gonna make a video about something. I'm gonna make, like, a catch-up gearing guide. I'm gonna make another leveling guide. I'm gonna, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, test something on the PTR for, like, the upcoming patch so I can make a guide for, like, whenever the next patch comes out. There's always something new to be covering in a video. And, like, these days, I could just make a video and then buy tokens, which it's just a better, I guess, conversion rate? I don't know. Maybe maybe not the best way to describe it, but that's at least the way I think about it. Like, the time that I used to be like, okay, downtime in a patch, it's time to do sales, I'm just like, downtime in a patch, it's time to make YouTube videos. But although I said I'm bad at maintaining my gold, I never run out of gold, because if I ever need gold, I just buy tokens. And at this point, it is just like a good trade-off for me, right? The more time that or the less time that I spend farming gold, the more time that I can spend making videos, which is just a net benefit for people who are watching my videos. You had some 1 hour in and out getting 1.5 mil. Jesus. Yeah, all of our reclears were pretty fast. We only did, by the end of pre-patch, we only did Nexus King and Dimmy, just because, like, who even cares about the earlier bosses? And we haven't done a reclear in, like, 2 weeks because apparently the splits are just so low that we were just like, yeah, we're going to take a break. Which, fair enough. No. I'd rather it. I have a lot of shit that I got to do. Any beta testing for the add-on? If you watch the VOD, I showed a bit of the add-on. I showed an early sneak preview, and we did some testing. When the add-on is, like, fully complete for the entirety of the Midnight route, right now I only have, like, a rough version of the Sunwell route that I started building, like, 3 hours ago. But when the entire Midnight campaign is ready to go, I will do a stream, and we will do an 80 to 90 run with my add-on. And that will be the next 80 to 90 run that I do. Probably in, like, 2 to 3 days. In your Utopia, sharing info is so nice, so true. You're doing 8s at least before early access is done. It's not for splits, it's just for professions. Can't talk. You're doing 8. I see. You're doing 8 characters. I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I can totally see that. Hello, CHNKNNGL. I don't know how to phonetically pronounce that, but good to see you. Thank you for stopping by the stream. You only get 180k per Dimmy kill now, but you do 6 kills in an evening. Yeah, I guess that would add up for sure. I think I've answered every chat message, though. I'm all caught up. So, yeah, obviously my Discord has been very active lately. I'll post the invite link here. I think it's already in my, it should be in, like, the description on both YouTube and Twitch, but I'll post it here. If you're watching it, you're somehow not already in my Discord. There's been a lot of really good discussion for leveling stuff, and, for all the people asking, can you talk about, like, all these other things? Like, we need to keep it in a format that, like, Blizzard is 100% too lazy to, like, crawl through my Discord step by step. They look for, like, big publicized, like, videos, posts, stuff like that. So I think buried in, like, random discussions, it's safe, and, you can, if you're savvy enough, you can search through it and find the information you're looking for, most likely. But yeah, there's been a lot of good discussion there. Would recommend. You're spreading out super duper secret leveling knowledge. Think of our Utopia. I'm gonna start using that going forward. Utopia, like I said, it goes hard. It really is, like, probably the best thing that came out of that conversation. It's a really fun thing to say. But anyways, this was a fun little detour. I said before, like, on the last full 80 to 90 speedrun, I said, I'm going dark, and the next stream, I'm not streaming at all until we get the add-on done. And then obviously, at that point in time, I didn't know they were doing a launch test. So they did a launch test. Overall, I think it went pretty well. There have been much worse launch tests, so hopefully Blizzard got the information they need. I think it was good practice, for sure. And it was a fun, good reason to do, like, a mini stream. So hope this was helpful. And now I am going to go back to the mines and finish up the add-on, work out those bugs that we figured out during the little sneak peek, and then I'm going to get everything working. I think, like I said, I think I already know how to fix most of the issues. The map ID one, I might just need to hard code it, but I can do that if needed. But all the other stuff, I'm pretty sure I already know what to do. So like, at this point, all of the really hard stuff, it's done. I mean, you could see, it looks, in my opinion, kind of clean, really. It's just, like, ironing out the little kinks in, like, the map ID, the quest tracking progress, and stuff like that. But that stuff is easy. Blizzard has, like, hooks in the game to let you get that information. I just need to figure out which one I need to be getting the information from, and then plugging that into the panel. But all the back-end logic, all of that, the arrow, that's the hard part, and that's done. Now I just gotta brute force, map the entire thing out, get it all loaded in, and then we do a test run, whenever that is. But yeah, thank you, Helza. Thank you, Werewolf. Glad you enjoyed the stream. And it was Goose said, I'm glad they nerfed Dream Surge, and I hope they adjust some XP values for the campaign quest. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, Dream Surge being nerfed is perfectly fine, and I'm glad they did that as well. Ranax said, thanks for the stream. Looking forward to the add-on. Awesome. I hope it lives up to your expectations. And see ya, Clarity K as well. All right. Stop and stream for good now. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you whenever the